You know, over the years, I've had a lot of help, a lot of training, a lot of mentorship from that generation of builder who's 10 to 15 years older than me. Guys like Ray and Tim and Joel and Luis were willing to walk job sites with me, to have lunch with me, to take my phone call when I had a question. And I think my YouTube channel in some respects has been a little bit of a response to paying that back. You know, you can't necessarily call me, but you can take a job block with me. And I've loved being able to pass down some of the wisdom that I've learned from that generation older than me. And hopefully you've learned something, even if you're my age, on this YouTube channel. So in today's build show, I'm gonna walk this house behind me. We're at the perfect stage right now for a job walk. We're just ready for insulation. All mechanicals are in, the framing's done, the waterproofing's done, the trades have been through. Let's take a few minutes, let's walk this house together. I'm gonna point out some things that we've done on this house that are specific to ultra modern construction, but I'm also gonna show you some job organization, how we set up our job sites, some of the products we use and how we use them, and I think you're gonna learn something today no matter what style you build in. Today's build show from the job site, let's get going. All right, we might go to music, we might not. We'll see, I'm gonna be editing, so let's start here at the front of the project, shall we? All right, so. Okay, let's start out here at the street and then we'll work our way back. So first off, when you set up your jobs, I'm a big believer that a windscreen on the front of the house is really important. Put that black windscreen on. Have a lockable gate. We typically rent our fences from a rental company for the duration of the project, and it just makes everything neat and compact and gives us a good forward face to the street. Remember, the general public doesn't typically know what builders are like, but they certainly know whether they're organized and clean and efficient or not. And so just by having that street presence, that makes a big difference. The other thing you typically want to do is do some type of mud control. And this is what we call bull rock, a chunkier rock that allows you to drive your tires on it and not pick up mud. So you're not going to get mud on the street as you're pulling out. I do highly recommend logoing your truck, by the way, and not just the magnet. But let's go look at some specific details on this house. As I mentioned, this is a real modern build. The architect here is Shoe Architects. Michael Shoe is the head architect. No overhangs, fairly modern, kind of a boxy look here. Now this section does have a big overhang. This is basically the walkway to the front door here. So anytime we've got modern construction, we need to take our waterproofing incredibly seriously. I'm a big fan of the silver peel and stick material that you're seeing here. This is by a Texas company called Polywall, and this is their Alumaflash. It's a real thick peel and stick material. You can see it's still flapped here because we're not done with the details, so we've left it on. But the beauty of this product is it'll even stick upside down. Look at this overhang over here on this side of the house. We've got kind of a slant back to the house, and you can see it stuck tenaciously on there. That looks really, really good. The other nice thing about this is we can detail with their blue barrier product. This that you're seeing right there is a fluid applied that sticks tenaciously to this stuff. Aluminum face also means that it can take a lot of exposure. Now, this is a zero perm product, so if you're in the north, you don't want to use this. But if you're in the south, this is a great choice. Another thing you'll notice on this house, we're using all plywood. The benefits of plywood are that if you do get any incidental moisture through there, the plywood's going to be able to soak that up and absorb that moisture much, much better than an oriented strand board would. And because these walls are so highly exposed, it's really a good choice for an expensive project, a project with no overhangs, a project that might have some incidental moisture coming through there. Now, what's the difference between 1/2 inch, 5/8, and 3/4 plywood? The beauty of 3/4 plywood is that when the mason comes later, this house is getting basically a linear brick that's made from a limestone that's quarried locally. Now, if I've got 3/4 plywood in there, I can basically anchor anywhere, meaning I can put that corrugated masonry tie anywhere in the body of this, if this is 3/4. If it's 1/2 inch, I really need to anchor into the studs because we're looking for somewhere between a 3/4 and a 1 inch embedment into the stud with that anchor. So that's really a good choice. You'll also notice that we've got, yeah, it's definitely 3/4 because I've got a bunch of 3/4 stocked here. I couldn't remember what Alex, the project manager, used on this. It's going to be the engineer that's going to specify that too. Electrician did a really nice job. This is Rick Power and his crew. Look how neat and tidy that is. Looks really, really nice. Okay, let's walk through the house. Now, the first thing you're going to notice as we walk in is that Alex, the project manager, is on point with his job site protection. This is the door between the house and the garage, and this is a high-end door from the guys at Quantum Windows and Doors. In fact, the whole house is Quantum. This is a Sapele wood, which is a really very durable, very rot-resistant wood. And these are unclad windows, meaning there's no aluminum on the outside. It's Sapele all the way through. Now, a window like this one up there that you're seeing outside, that one's going to probably require some maintenance because it's pretty exposed. And we're also going to really have to make sure we get our flashing details right. Speaking of which, you'll notice everywhere I've got windows, we put a slab recess in those locations. So you're going to see here that this slab has a recess, and then we've lined that too with that Alumiflash to make a built-in sill pan for all these windows and doors on the outside. Now these come not primed, what's what I'm looking for, pre-finished basically. We may have to do a little bit of touch-up finishing on that. And as we get into the drywall phase, we're gonna have to protect all these even more so than we have. Now they come with glass protection. This is a film that's on the glass. You can kind of see the edges of that right there to help protect it from scratches. Really important when we're getting into the masonry phase. But water is our #1 enemy as a builder. Okay, a couple other things I wanted to point out in this house. We went with a different style of floor truss than we're used to using. Most of the time I use wood 2x4 floor trusses, kind of like a roof truss, but actually made for floors. But because we had some compactness, some height restrictions here that we were dealing with, we decided to go ahead and use these trusses. I don't necessarily want to say the brand name because I'm actually about to tell you that I haven't loved them. These are a metal hybrid truss, and they've worked great for getting utilities through. Like in this space over here, ton of ductwork. Like look at that giant trunk line we were able to get through there in that truss space. We wouldn't have been able to do that as easily with a wood truss. So that's the reason why we use them. But notice on the bottom side of the truss, I've got another 2x4 attached. We've basically had to fur the whole ceiling. Now, if you're in the Northeast, like my buddy Wade Paquin up in Rhode Island, they use ceiling strapping all the time, but we don't normally down here, especially if I'm using a 2x4 truss. They're usually, those 2x4 trusses are nice and straight. These, on the other hand, were moved on us a little bit, and as we loaded the floor, we saw differential movement between them, so we didn't want to do that. Now, a couple things you want to notice on the ductwork on this house. Big fan of using metal trunk lines and then dropping down in flex at the end of those runs. So for instance, this main trunk right here, you're going to see right above my head, that's probably a 10 or 12 inch trunk line that's all in sheet metal that's been wrapped on the outside. I really like that because now we don't have anything in the airstream that's going to possibly collect mold or dust. Really easy to clean in the future. It also means that when we bend a corner, we've got a radius on there that's going to really move that air. That ductwork's, you know, at least 50 to 100 year ductwork, meaning it's going to be around and not have any problems for a long, long time. Now the problem with metal though is it tends to be kind of loud, and also it's a little bit expensive compared to typical flex duct. So one thing that we do typically is we'll then transition from metal trunk lines to flex duct in the last 10 feet or so. And that's what's going on here. Now this is kind of wonky. See all those boxes on the ceiling here? Let's go over to the other side and you can see what's happening with those. And now you can see we've got a fur down here because we've got that giant tube steel in there. And at the bottom of that fur down, you've got all those boxes. And what's happening is there's going to be a linear grill going all the way across there that's going to take that and turn it into one looking duct from this side. This is the kitchen space, obviously, living and family room. Man, these windows are amazing, aren't they? These are those quantum windows. We've got a big slider here that's going to be able to slide open. There's a pool right here. We've got just a great view of kind of some woods, and there's a creek back there. Look at that window. That window's giant. Isn't that awesome? That window is hard to glaze. I wish I could have gotten some video on it, but we basically used a robot to glaze several of these, which is like a track machine with some suction cups that's able to push that out and then suck it back in. So we glazed it from the inside like they do on commercial buildings. Here's a tip that I saw a couple years ago. Just take a standard table that you're going to get at Costco or one of those kinds of places, an inexpensive folding table, but just add some PVC pipe to the bottom. Man, that makes a great table height plan table. And then we've also really liked this too. This is a job box by the guys at Crescent Tool Company. This is the plan desk, and then underneath here there's some holders. Let's see if we can see what's going on here. There we go. All right, a couple of things I want you to notice on this floor. Check out the blocking here. Framer, cabinet guy, architect got together, talked about all the cabinet elevations. This is a giant wall of cabinetry going all the way around, and they've done a great job of putting all that blocking in the correct spots. So when the carpenters come and install those cabinets in a couple months, everything's going to be lined up perfectly. Very, very smart. I love seeing that. You know, something I forgot to mention in the kitchen is this right here. This is a giant pipe, as you can see, like a 10 or 12 inch pipe that's going to be for the exhaust. We've got a gas range in here. This isn't a passive house, but it's going to be fairly tight, so we need to think about makeup air, especially in a house that's going to meet today's codes. So let me show you the makeup air system we're doing on this house. On this wall, we've got a refrigerator system, and then up here is some cabinetry, and that pipe right there is the makeup air pipe, which is going to be buried once it gets into the cabinets and comes around so that we can dump makeup air over here by where the kitchen range is. Now let's take a look where that pipe is connected to. Notice that's all metal pipe, insulated on the outside, and then this right here is a duct silencer. That's going to quiet down the flow of air. And then this is a damper that has a 24-volt relay that's basically going to be hooked up over here so that when someone turns on the hood fan, it'll say, hey, open up this damper right here. Now you can see there's an access hatch framed right here, and that's because we need access to this filter. We want to filter that air coming in if at all possible. So this filter right here is going to be a replaceable, removable filter that we can filter the air coming in. And then you can see it's looping around and it's pulling the air out of the side of the house right here. Here's another quick tip for you. I learned this a couple years ago from another builder's job site. It still has my old logo on it. It still has the Reisinger Homes logo. We've kind of rebranded to Reisinger Build these days, but put a lidded trash can on the job site. That way when you've got trash, birds, rats, all those guys are not going to be able to get into an open top trash can. Makes it look neater as well. One other thing I wanted to mention in case it happens in the comments is the recess cans in this house are going to be all LEDs. We buy these through Circa Lighting here in Austin, and these are the Element variety, which I think is the kind of model number by Tech Lighting. Can and everything combined runs around $150 per, including the light module and everything. But you can see they're pretty thin. They can fit up into some fairly tight spaces. Let's go over and look at this bathroom right here. A couple things are worth noting here. Check out how we've got a step down into the bathroom. That way our tile can be flush with our hardwoods. As we come out of the bathroom, you're gonna have hardwoods. We need all that space for the mud set, for the tile. So we've got that step down, and then another step down as we come here to the shower pan. Now this is a fiberglass shower pan. I've used those for a long time. But we're starting to make the transition towards the Schluter system. We're going to be using that more in the future. You also notice we've got Uponor PEX. I've really liked Uponor, and we've started to use that more and more. That's a good PEX system with expansion fittings. We're also typically stubbing out in copper when you come into the bathroom. And then this is a guest bedroom on this floor. Low volt guys did a great job right over there too. Look at that, all nice and neat. Everything's all coiled nicely in there. Here's something you might not see very often. Look at that PVC pipe coming from the roof. That's an internal roof drain that's basically got a drain up on the roof and then coming through the house and then draining out through this pipe right here to the outside and then down the hill on the outside. You know, we've, in the past, it's pretty typical to see parapet walls with a scupper. That's basically a short wall on a flat roof that has a hole in the wall. But honestly, those things are really tough to flash and get correct. So we've gone to actually being okay with internal roof drains. When I first, several years ago, heard about them, I thought, well, that's a terrible idea, bringing water through the house. But you know, parapets are really, really tough to get perfect. And one of my first houses I ever built with parapets, I had some problems and had to pay for it out of my pocket to correct it. So we've actually gone to internal roof drains on a lot of our projects. That way the plumber who's used to dealing with watertight connections is dealing with that watertight connection and not the roofer and whoever's doing wall waterproofing for us. Okay, upstairs now. Let's have a look and see what's interesting up here. So we got a squeak right here. Did you hear that? Good time to hit a job site so we can make sure if we have an issue we can correct it. That sounded like a truss to me. It's kind of a metallic squeak. Let's see if we can make it happen again. It's right there. Hear that? Kind of a metallic sound. I like to always walk my jobs on quiet days, and you'll see me walking around like this, where I kind of look like a dorky dancer, because that way you can hear those things. Now, I'm guessing that's a truss issue and not an Advantech issue. We're using 1 1/8" Advantech on this job. We glue it down with Advantech glue and we nail it. And man, once I've switched to that, I haven't had any decking problems, but I have had a couple joist issues. We're gonna have to check into that, figure out what's wrong with that. Here we go. Here, now we can see some HVAC equipment installed. I don't know if you knew, but Trane Mitsubishi have a new partnership where you can actually buy Mitsubishi equipment at a Trane dealer, and they're kind of co-branding, co-marketing with each other. That's a really nice unit right there. So that unit is going to be connected with that Freon line to a city multi on the outside, and that's going to basically blow up, and then this is the roof line up here. It's going to blow up and then into that trunk line right there to serve the master and then serve the other bedrooms. And again, you're going to notice that we've got all metal trunk lines, and then we drop and flex for a couple feet here and there, and that is actually a return right there. So that's sucking in and then bringing air back down to the return side of the furnace down below. The light's not quite right today, but this is the master bedroom, and can you kind of see how there's light coming down from the ceiling there? Check this out. There's a curved detail right here in the wall, which goes up to a skylight up there. Isn't that cool? So this wall will get washed with natural light. And because it's a master bedroom, we've got an exterior shade on those that can kind of block that out. So if you're trying to sleep in, you're not going to get bombarded. But I thought that design from the architect was pretty slick. And the framers did a great job of curving that and making a really nice slick wall. This would be all level 5 smooth in this house as well. All right, what else do we want to take a look at here? Check out that pop out. Oh man, the pop outs on this house are wild. There's a bunch of them that the architects designed, and you can see we got a bunch of steel to hold those up. Those were, I gotta say, those were difficult to build. Alex, my project manager on this job, just did a fantastic job. There's that other pop out that's so visible on the front as well. And then again, the glazings, like we talked about earlier, getting this glass in was really hard. And in fact, here's a little story for you. This massive glass in the back of the house, look at those huge panels. was actually brought through the house. Can you see how the Advantech decking here is different colored? We actually had to cut a hole in the floor. We had to brace with temporary walls underneath these trusses, and then the glass came up through the floor from one robot to be caught by another robot upstairs. And then this glass was like angled outside and brought back in and then glazed to be able to glaze that big one and this big one. This one's a little more normal sized, but now you've got true floor to ceiling glass up here. Isn't that wild? Amazing. We've got pretty standard framing. This is 16-inch on-center framing. We don't have any exterior insulation on this house, so this is going to be more of a standard code-built house when it comes to insulation details. I like to get involved as early as I can to talk about that and figure that out. But I'm in climate zone 2. We're in hot, humid Texas. We don't always necessarily need that. Now here you can see those exterior roof drains. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit to show those. So there's those drains outside, and you can see we've got a really low pitched roof, no pitch, it's pitched a little bit to the center, but if we had one of these that clogged, it would actually overflow and fall off the sides of the house. Now this roof is kind of a light gray color, but it's a membrane roof. It's actually a PVC roof. There's several flavors when you go to flat roofs. I've done Kemper in the past, I've done TPO, I've done PVC. I'm using PVC a little bit more these days. PVC is kind of a happy medium. The Kemper, amazing product, using on New York downtown buildings. Very, very expensive, more than double the cost of PVC. So not everybody's got it in their budget. Super bomber system though. PVC a little bit more expensive than TPO, a little bit more long lasting as well. You know, you're typically going to see warranties in the 20-ish year range, maybe 25-year range. So worth looking into PVC if you've used TPO in the past. The other thing that I want to point out on the first floor here that's worth mentioning is check out the steel that we embedded to get this floating staircase in here. Let's zoom out here a little bit. The guys at Drop House did most of this for us. There's my phone ringing. And you can see we've got an Lvl Stringer that Bill Wood and the carpenters at Madera framed. And then that's bolted onto the steel. And then we're using an inch and an eighth Advantech for the sub treads on this. So there's your inch and an eighth sub tread. And then we've got 3/4 plywood for the risers, and then LVLs here. And they've been bolted into the steel. And then you can see they're bolted as well at the bottom of that stringer. Man, that's a neat detail. Architects came up with that, and then we worked with the engineers to fabricate all that. You've got tube steel coming down here. The tube steel is then supporting that, which is on the landing. And then you've got these L brackets here. And then it's this really interesting floating steel. So as you come in the front door, which is behind us here, this is that view that you're going to have coming in there. Pretty cool, I got to say. That is quite a design. I like having regular trash cans on the job site. You'd like to always have a fire extinguisher on the job site. Alex has done a great job organizing this job. All right, guys, I think that's it for the details for today. Stay tuned for next week. We are pretty soon going to have all our IBS content coming out. I've got content from the BMC show, and I even have a couple episodes from my Vancouver trip that we haven't had a chance to edit. But Joey, my main editor, has been sick with the flu this week. So I'm on my own today. Hopefully the video turned out okay and you could hear me and we got some good visuals. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. I thought this might be helpful to show you some of the inside details on one of my job sites. Big shout out to the architects on this job, Shoe Architecture. Man, they're just so good at these ultra modern houses. This is a really fun house to build. But as you can see, detailed and difficult, and you need to make sure you've got enough budget to really get these details done correctly and do them right. Anyways, guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday on the Build Show. And, oh, by the way, we've got content over on buildshownetwork.com as well, so go check out that. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, otherwise we'll see you next time on the Build Show.